All right, thank you everyone coming to our governance call number 3. This is going to be an exciting one and packed with topics on the agenda. So I will start with a very, very quick governance update, and then we will go straight to one of the proposals. So, and given there are 4 proposals on the agenda today, then just want to make sure in order to make sure we have time for covering the presentations and all the questions afterwards. Like, please ask people to sorry for putting it that way, straight to the point with their question, just to make sure we have enough time, because we're anticipating a lot of questions and just want to make sure that we can cover everything. So the governance update right now, we have 5 proposals live on the forum. So after a quiet January, we took revenge in February with our governance proposals. So we have 5 right now live on the forum. They're all in the request for comment stage. And they are CP138, which was the Treasury proposal from Dudao that we heard about in the last call. Then we have CP139, which is about the Florida Blockchain Association membership from Ryan. It's on the agenda today. Then we have CP140, which is a Treasury proposal to renew the funding for the Treasury Advisory Group, also on the agenda today. And then there is CP141, that is the proposal to initiate the development of Centrifuge v3, an EVM-based protocol. And this is the big one that we have allocated quite a lot of time for in this call to make sure people's questions are addressed. And lastly, CP123, which is a proposal to change the Anemoy LTF fees, also on the agenda. So hopefully we will have time to cover all of these. And without any further ado, I will pass it to you, Jeroen, for the presentation of CP141. Sorry, yeah, CP141.
Amazing, thank you. Let me quickly share my screen. Just a second. All right, so just to confirm, can everybody see the slides now?
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Hi, everybody. So yeah, I'll give a relatively brief introduction into the proposal. I keep it brief mainly because, well, one,
Is the rest on nog? Ja? Nee, dan is het goed. Dan is het goed.
Can you guys please mute yourself if there's anyone?
All right, so I'll keep the summary pretty brief. It's already been on the forum for about a week. There's been a lot of discussions already. So I want to make sure that we have a lot of time for Q&A. But I'll summarize it a little bit just so we make sure we're all on the same page. And I'll share a little bit of my personal opinion on what we're proposing here. So to kind of put it very simply, what we are proposing, coming from the PEG group, is to develop Centrifuge v3 as a multi-chain EVM-based protocol, moving from parachain to this. There's many reasons for that, and the details are in the proposal. But the main ones are, number one, if we look at the market today for DeFi more broadly and RWA specifically, we can see that most of the liquidity is on EVM-based blockchains. Also, if you look at today, our users for Centrifuge pools, most of the investors are coming from, and also historically have come from, EVM-based networks, mostly Ethereum, but also Base and Arbitrum, as we're live today, and Celo. So that's number one. Number two is we see that there's most adoption and tools and just broad support around the EVM. I think we all know how well Etherscan is working, but it goes far beyond that. If you think about custody, if you think about all these other kind of tools that especially institutions that we work with need, EVM is the best in this area by far. And then the third piece is by moving to EVM protocol, we can also more closely interact with other DeFi protocols that are also EVM based. We can already do some of this now with our current system, but there's some limitations. We basically can't synchronously compose on the asset side, and we'll talk about this in more detail later. But the key point is like what we want to focus on is building integrations with other EVM-based protocols, and that's what this will enable or increase. All right, so a little bit of history. I guess a lot of people here have been here for a while and are probably quite familiar. We initially developed the V1 of this Centrifuge protocol, which we used to call Tin Lake back then in 2019, 2020. This was Ethereum only proposals, a single chain, not multi-chain yet, very private credit focused. And what it really enables us to do is to kind of prove out what an RWA protocol could be and how we can securely build an RWA protocol. And that was really the key focus. And I think that was really successful in terms of growing together with big partners like Maker. But it was quite limited, very private credit focused, only one network and so on. So then a few years ago, we started working and eventually launched what we could just talk about as V2, which was Centrifuge chain together with liquidity pools. So there, basically, we have a single network where CFG lives, and then where fund managers go to basically manage their pools and launch RWAs, and then investors go through liquidity pools on already different networks. But only the investor side is multi-chain. The fund manager side is fully single chain. I think we learned a lot from this. We built a much more institutional product compared to the V1. We started supporting multi-chain use cases, albeit somewhat limited, and we haven't been able to fully grow that to its full potential. But I think we learned a lot from that, and it's really exciting. What we're looking to do now with V3 is really take that to the next level, become a fully multi-chain protocol, meaning all aspects of the product can be launched on any EVM-based network, and we can, when I say here interoperability, we can really work together with all these different networks, all these different blockchains, all these different protocols. It will also allow us to scale the product much more because we can go beyond just a single blockchain for the fund management side. We can launch this on all of these different Alt L1s and L2s that are coming out that are fully EVM compatible. We can support all of those from the start. I think that's a really big win. To go into a bit more detail and why I think this is so important, what it enables is a few key features. And then the first one is what we are calling basically the chain abstraction layer for RWAs. What this means is on one end of our product, you have fund managers, they're running pools, they're tokenizing assets, they're managing their investor base. They can choose which network they want to use, whether that's like some examples here, Ethereum, Optimism, Flume, Arbitrum, whatever is their preferred choice of network. And then on the other side, you can have investors on any network, basically provide stablecoins or other sources of liquidity to any of these pools. And what we're really proposing with V3 is to try to abstract all of that away and bring all of these different fund managers on any network together with any investor on any network, without any of the complexity of like managing tokens on different networks, which is really not scalable. So this, I think, is really taking the learnings we have from the last few years of building like liquidity pools and building the next generation of Centrifuge as a fully multi-chain protocol. And really, I think the first like chain abstraction protocol for RWAs and tokenization, which is really pretty unique new feature. Next part of that is if you look at the Centrifuge protocol today, as I mentioned originally, we really focused on private credit. Then the last 1-2 years, we moved to Treasury bills and similar bond-like products. That's where the market is today. But we already see that that's starting to move beyond just T-bills. We're looking at other kinds of credit that is really interesting, especially like Anemoy within the ecosystem. Obviously, other issuers are also looking at maybe tokenizing equity or buying also more DeFi native assets, or even like we're starting to see the first like use case of like fully native RWAs, like meaning tokenized assets that are fully like brought on chain directly and then like managed through a Centrifuge pool directly. So I think that's like where there's going to be a lot of new assets and new products being launched and the market going beyond T-bills really. And from a technical perspective, we really want to support all of that. And that's the like requirement and part of the V3 proposal. And then on the other side, as most of you know, like with the initial product, we already support multiple tranches, so meaning the originally with drop and tin, if people remember that. With Centrifuge chain, we already have also multiple tranches, so you can have senior and junior, as we call it. With the new protocol, we want to be even more flexible. So we'll launch initially with support for what in finance you would call mutual funds, which is really which is what like the Treasury bill use case mainly is. So the Anemoy LTF, now called JTRSY pool, is this kind of product. We want to support other kinds of funds, other kinds of structures, to basically enable more fund managers to work with our protocol and to use it to grow their business ultimately. Moving on, I think the other piece, I mentioned this already, composability is a key goal with V3. Really on two sides. On the one hand, you have the tokenized shares, right? So you have the GTRSY, the T-bill tokens that are being plugged into Morpho and maybe Aave and Maker and other kinds of DeFi protocols. And then on the other side, you have pools that are actually taking money that goes into the pool and then buying other tokenized assets and other DeFi native assets. And so we want to enable composability on both of these sides and really to integrate and use DeFi for what it's meant for, right? And where it's really strongest, which is composability and what people often call like money Legos. So that's really what we're trying to achieve with this proposal. And I think a big part of it. So yeah, that's a pretty short summary. Obviously, it doesn't cover everything, but I hope it kind of gives you an idea of what we're proposing here. The proposal is already live, like I said, for like about a week on the forum. There's been some great comments. I saw there were some comments already also after I responded yesterday. So happy to like answer those questions here or really dive into anything. So I'll leave it here and yeah, let's have a little discussion around this.
Thank you, Jon. So it's open for questions, comments now around this proposal.
Yeah, I'll jump in, Orhan. I can find the raise the hand button. This is excellent, and I didn't get a chance to dive in and actually provide any comments on the forum yet. But I was telling, as you guys know, when working with this ADE team out of El Salvador, and I was telling them about the move to EVM because they've hired a Polish engineering team, Innowise, to actually build the technical side of the product. They were excited by that announcement in and of itself, knowing how seamless it would be because they're already talking to Arbitrum and doing some stuff with them and writing program in Notion or whatever, or script, or I forget exactly the name of it. So having this, just seeing the flexibility of what you guys are building out, I think is incredible. Is it okay if I actually took some screenshots because I want to share with the ADE guys? Is that okay? Is this public yet, or should I hold off?
Yeah, to that question, everything I just shared is also I think we shared these screenshots in the Twitter thread around the proposals. If you go to the Centrifuge Twitter, it's all there. So you can definitely share this. This is all public. I mean, the governance call in general is public. And then to your first point, I think that's really awesome. Like that's the perfect example of why I think we're proposing this. It's something when I say we, like the KF team, obviously building this, have seen time and time again. Is there's really some struggles with integrating with our system today. And EVM is really just what everybody knows, what everybody's using. And once we're fully EVM native, it will make all of those partnerships and deeper integrations much more smooth. And it will make it also much easier for others to build their business on top of Centrifuge, right? Where right now it's really really hard to like not just integrate, but like build on top. And I think this is really what we're trying to accomplish is Centrifuge being this platform that others can use to leverage and then build on top of.
The other
I'm
thing
really
that
excited to hear that.
So the other thing that immediately came to mind is I should be seeing one of our partners at Global Stake, the more enterprise side of Lucky Friday, is MG Stover. And they have a network of 200-ish fund admins that do everything. So it'd be great to have conversations with them just about Centrifuge, what it's building, the sort of flexibility they could have for these fund managers to bring stuff on chain. So really cool. Bravo, guys.
Amazing. Yeah, just one short comment. We've actually spoken a few times to MG Stover before, and I think they unfortunately didn't work out back then in the partnership that we were setting up. But I thought I got a really good impression. They seemed really eager to like work with the organization and move into the space. So that would be awesome, I would say.
Eshwar, you have your hand raised. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So Yeah, I did follow the proposal. It's an excellent proposal for the obvious reasons of liquidity and composability, and it's a very good one. But the question is around the stakeholders' agreement on this one, because I did see that there were some questions around the how the altair will be handled or how the chain will be selected. So my one big question is that, are we going to build it on any one of the EVM chain, or it will be a new chain that is composable with all the existing chains like the base, Arbitrum, Optimism, and everything? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question, right? So the goal is to build a protocol that can be deployed on any EVM chain. So we're not proposing to launch a new blockchain, but rather building a protocol that can be deployed on existing networks. Which networks that will be really is a commercial discussion around like where do we think there's the most like growth potential for Centrifuge. I think if you look at where TVL is coming from today, you look at Ethereum mainnet, Base, Arbitrum, those are, I would say, prime like opportunities. Maybe Anil or someone else from BD can share a bit more about that. But it's really where do we see growth for Centrifuge, I would say, is the key decision for that.
Yeah, I think you're to just add to that. Yeah, like we're in a really, really fortunate position with the relationship we have with Janus Henderson, the fund that we built with the Janus Henderson LTF, and then some of the new funds that we're building. That we've got some really good momentum, and so the conversations we're having with these partners is really energizing as well. So like all TBD of what's happening, but it's, as you say, it's a commercial decision. But we're in a position where we can have very strong, good conversations to lead us into the next quarter.
Robin, go ahead, please.
Hey, great proposal again. So wanted a bit more like technical details on the chain abstraction side, because we see many other protocols trying to solve the same thing, right? Like Uniswap trying to do it with intents and all, right? Then we have Chainlink CCIP. I think USDC has its own architecture very similar to CCIP, which makes it very easy to move USDC across the chains and all. And I see Infinix had done really good job on the UX side, which is like making it very easy for the user to interact without a wallet and all, right? Just using the passkey. So want to know like, how do you see like what are the technologies you're planning to use on the chain abstraction side?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. A few things to that. So one, what we're trying to accomplish is not build a general chain abstraction protocol, but rather build something that works perfectly for the use case of RWAs and tokenization. And what we're planning to do is partner with existing, what you could like message aggregators, or what you would consider bridges, protocols like Chainlink, CCIP, Wormhole, XLR, Layer 0. I think all of those are kind of like all of the major protocols that exist for that. We're looking to partner with those protocols and build on top of that. And so what we're doing is a few things. One, we're looking at using multiple of these protocols for additional security. So you've seen this with Uniswap has really been a pioneer here for their governance, where they actually use, I think, Wormhole and XLR at the same time. We want to do the same as well, so we have much better security for all of our users. That's really what institutions that we work with expect. So that's from a partnership perspective and like how we think about working with other existing players. And then what we're really building from a product perspective is taking all of the day-to-day running of an on-chain tokenized fund and automating that using our chain abstraction layer, right? So if you think about creating new assets, launching new funds, managing investors, managing the permissions, right? Like the KYC, KYB, all of that, that all needs to happen across different networks, right? So for example, for any tokenized, like for tokenized T-bill offering today, Anemoy and Janus Henderson as the issuer are managing the KYC on Arbitrum, Ethereum, Celo, and Ethereum, and Base. What we're basically building is a way that they don't need to manage that on those 4 different networks, or maybe in the future 40 different networks, but rather they manage it from one single place. Let's say that's Ethereum, and they just can control their entire fund and all of the different networks from that one source. So that's really what we're trying to get to.
And just one thing I wanted to add to this is that when you look at the tokens, one thing that this system will actually do, in contrast to all like the chain bridging, where you actually have some cross-chain transferability, is that the system will natively, like the one from Circle, it will actually have a mint burn functionality all the time, so that you have the real assets on all chains, right? So you don't have any fractional reserve or any kind of higher level of debt, actually, where some of those assets are just locked on Ethereum and then minted as a wrapper on the other side. But the system will just internally handle all of that, so that you can ensure that the tokens that you're receiving or the shares that you're receiving are actually the real shares, and you have that on all systems natively, and nobody needs to actually think about whether this is the real thing, but they have all their same claimability on all networks.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
There's still time for a couple more questions. There was one in the chat about the vision for Altair, and it was already you responded to this on the forum, but would you mind giving a quick answer to that one as well, Johan?
Yeah, I could definitely add to that. So, right, from the Centrifuge perspective, from the Centrifuge protocol, if we're moving away from a parachain to an EVM-based protocol, I do think from the it will be hard to maintain Altair in the same way as this maintained today. But of course, Altair is a community-owned project with shareholders making the decisions through OpenGolf, actually, as far as I know. So in my opinion, the Altair community can absolutely decide on their own that they want to go into some direction and maybe choose to maintain Altair and use it for other purposes. But I think that's really an shareholder decision. I hope that clarifies.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Actually, Eshwar, on the forum, you had a couple of questions that you managed to. If you want, you can ask one of them here in the call. You wrote that after the last reply in the forum post.
Yeah. Okay, but maybe I was pretty clear on there. The overall schedule of having everything done in 2025 seems to be a little bit ambitious, and also on the scope and everything. Will there be a different proposal detailing what is covered and how much it's going to cost and how it is being funded? And because probably it's just out of understanding and more for the also the general people in order to understand that how it is planned to be executed.
Yeah, happy to answer that, right? So on timeline, what I would say is the KF team has already been looking into the technical feasibility of this new protocol. We've already built what you could consider a very simple proof of concept. And we're already looking at what it would take to actually fully develop this protocol. And so based on that research and what we've already done at KF, I feel pretty confident that we can really launch this in 2025. I think there's no major blockers to that, and I'm confident we can do that. Of course, we'll need to line up also partnerships with different blockchains, but I think we have a lot of positive momentum, and it seems very likely that will all work out really well. So yeah, that's kind of my perspective on the timeline. I think generally, right, I would add to that maybe somewhat funnily, right? Like as a CTO, normally I'd be very hesitant to share timelines, but in this case, I really feel this is what we're able to accomplish. So I'm happy to stand behind that. On the funding side, that's maybe I don't really have an answer to that yet, and we'll kind of come back to that later.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Are there more questions or comments to CP141? Feel free to ask now. Otherwise, we can move on if there are no more questions. Is there anything you want to add, Jeroen, or are we good to proceed with the agenda?
No, I think it was great. Thanks for speaking, Eric, everybody. And yeah, I'll make sure to keep watching the threads and like respond if there's any more questions there.
Thank you, Jon. And let's move on from CP 141 to a treasury proposal that we have CP 139 for the FBBA membership. So Ryan, that is your proposal you made on the forum. Would you mind like telling us like the background for this and what this this proposal is about?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Orhan. So, hey everybody, Ryan Azinski, Funky, active contributor. I've known Sam for a few years. He's the president of FBBA. This is an organization in a very large, powerful state here in the US that has a lot of important connections politically and economically. And so I had, Polkadot had a very similar proposal passed where they joined the enterprise level membership for the FBBA, trying to establish a presence here. I thought I would love to do something very similar for Centrifuge, especially if I could serve sort of as the conduit or the liaison between Centrifuge and, of course, the FBBA. And originally, and thanks to some great dialogue Kate and others have already shared, like I wrote it from the perspective of doing some sort of advocacy for here in Florida for DAOs, because there was a bill last year that didn't make it out of committees, and effectively it was looking at what ways could they make legal structures where DAOs could act as entities. And then just based on feedback and dialogue, this is kind of morphed into more of, could this also yield investment opportunities, bringing people who are here in Florida that could then maybe want to use Centrifuge, invest, use the pool, so on and so forth. So Sam is here. He's at the meeting. He is in DC right now. This guy is he's a young man who's very talented and highly connected. And so he's here. He can probably chime in and just give you a little bit more history about the organization, how it's morphing over time, becoming more inclusive of tech. It also they're dealing with AI and some other things too, but it plugs us into a big network of blockchain based businesses in Florida and just good conversations to be had all around. So I'll just shut up at this point. I'll turn it over to Sam. I know we're very limited on time. Thank you, Orhan.
No, and thank you, Ryan, for the intro. Hey, everybody, very nice to meet you. I'll just give like a very brief intro, and then I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So I'm the founder of the Florida Blockchain Business Association. It's one of the first state-focused associations here in the United States that was created. We've passed 5 to 6 bills in the Florida legislature. But here in the U.S., what's very interesting is Florida has become a very powerful state. The current president of the United States, based out of Florida, a lot of his members around him are Floridians. In fact, his current chief of staff I worked with on previous campaigns. So we found ourselves the past probably 2 to 3 years also getting more involved on the DC level, just by the nature of how influential Florida has become. But the main reason we created the FBBA all the way back in 2017, 2018 was to essentially advocate for state policy and to ensure that no matter what the federal government does here, that Florida is a friendly state. The most recent bill that we're pushing for this legislative session is a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which is obviously very popular among a lot of countries, states, and now in the federal government as well. But to Ryan's point, I'll briefly touch on, we do have a DAO bill that we want to push, but a lot of this stuff is just very expensive to hire lobbyists and get the right support to actually push some of this legislation. So that's primarily what our focus is just trying to ensure that we have friendly legislation promoting the state. And of course, what Florida does, a lot of the other states and the nation kind of follows, or at least looks at. But then we do a lot of business development as well. I was just at a conference where there was multiple RWAs and family offices there. I travel all over the country. One of the reasons why I'm actually in DC right now is to meet with some federal regulators about things that we're doing here in Florida. So appreciative of just being allowed to speak. Thank you, Ryan, for even introducing the proposal. And then I'm happy to answer any questions that you have to the best of my ability. So thanks for your time.
Thank you both, Ryan and Sam. I saw there were some questions in the forum post. I don't know if they were all addressed or not, but it's open for questions now. I can see, Jeff, you have a hand.
Yeah, and so I would like to say like I fully support this proposal because of the several reasons. Like first is about the regulation right now. I think RWA tokenization in US is quite nudge here. So with this kind of collaboration would be quite important and helpful. And I also appreciate what Ryan had done overall for the Centrifuge and overall and also for the big ecosystem. And I have a small question, like who will represent the Centrifuge at FBBA? Will Ryan be the key person, or is there any other opportunity for the community or the contributors to get involved in these efforts? Thanks.
I mean, I know I would certainly be the prime liaison between our two organizations, but I'm sure Sam could answer more. I would assume that the membership broadly wouldn't be for anybody in the DAO, so that like yes, if you want to come to an FBBA meeting or something along those lines, which might be held virtually because Florida is a really big state. Like for those of you living in Europe, you know, sometimes driving to the next country, 2 countries away is like just going halfway into some part of Florida. So yeah, there's a lot of different opportunities, but I'll let Sam answer that too.
Yeah, we're more than open to having people join, like say, for example, our community calls. And like the FBBA is a big community effort. So say, for example, a piece of legislation comes that is either bad or good, or that the Centrifuge community decides would actually be a priority for them, I would want to work with you guys on saying, okay, well, let's actually get something pushed. Maybe that is a DAO bill, maybe it's something completely different, right? So we're heavily reliant on communities and community feedback. So I would love for like more community involvement, absolutely.
I guess, Sam and Ryan, I'm interested in, I don't know if Centrifuge has as its top priorities like furthering DAO legislation. I just don't think that it is one of our priorities. Like if we were a DAO that was all about governance and was like one of the biggest DAOs, and like that could be so, but I think our focus is on different things. So therefore the questions I asked in the forum are around like, would this potentially bring deals to Centrifuge in the form of investment in different pools, or potentially down the track if, you know, one of the members of the association that wanted to launch a pool? I think that's probably, and I'm happy to hear otherwise from other members of the DAO, but that's where our interest in joining an association would be. So my question to you is, what kind of deal flow is there between members, if any? Can you talk about that at all? And yeah, just a bit more overview. I've looked at your website, like what kind of members do you have? What do they get up to?
Yeah, absolutely. So just in short, so normally we have like grassroots led committees that are started by different industries. So one of our more popular committees is obviously our real estate committee, right? We also have a financial committee, which is composed of hedge funds like Hyperion Decimus, Stillman Digital, which is an OTC desk. And then obviously we have connections with exchanges as well. So also like my network is broader than my membership, just because of all the people that come to us based on legislation that we push. So I have contacts at Coinbase and Kraken and all the whole nine. So it really just depends on like what you guys are looking for specifically, but I can plug you in into essentially any business network. It's kind of one of the reasons Florida, at least for me, of course I'm shilling because I love Florida, I'm a Floridian. But one unique thing about Florida is the international presence that it's had because of places like Miami and how influential it's become. So many companies have moved here and relocated here. So our network has actually extended far and well above beyond the state. So yeah, a lot of people will join, not necessarily to support policy, but because they want to be involved in our business network. And I can make those connections at any point in time as long as they're useful, but also help shepherd that deal flow to make sure that, right, those bridges are connected, if that makes sense.
Cool, yeah, thank you.
And I was just gonna say, Kate, I only saw your second piece today. Like I'm admittedly on vacation with my wife in Paris, so I haven't had the chance. I literally just saw them when I was logging right before the meeting. But happy to give you, you know, as specific answers as possible.
I also noticed that the Eshwar had some questions in the proposal. for this Treasury proposal. Did you get answers to those, Ishvar, or do you want to ask them now? We still have time for one more question before we move on.
If they can address, I think I would be glad. Or do you want me to read them out? Because I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, you can do that. Just you can pick one of them. I can see you have two. Just pick. We can do one, then we can move on after the answer.
Yeah, like one of the question that what we were going is for a membership, but rather than for that one as a corporate sponsorship or something for one of the event, I think that would give a more exposure about Centrifuge or about the community of what is happening, or does just the membership will also bring up the same amount of things, because that's something that was not very clear in the proposal. So I just wanted to explore on that part, because at the end we want to also market about Centrifuge to the more people that they are aware about it. And 50K, but I don't know the other plans that how an enterprise membership will work with respect to the membership that what we have right now for the 50K.
Yeah, I know that part of it is, there was a blockchain day, for instance, to answer your question, Eshwar, in terms of, sort of the branding that goes around with some of the members that belong to it. So there would be, in some sense, that level of marketing. I don't know how many like in-person events, however, there would be for any given year for the FBBA. This would be where Sam would have to answer, to actually have that level of corporate sponsorship, where if it were some kind of event and you could have the Centrifuge logo at the top as enterprise sponsor or something like that. That question remains of just how many of those events would actually happen. But in terms of just the regular things that I know that occur through the FBBA, like the blockchain day where they all go visit the Capitol and so on and so forth, a lot of the members are, get some exposure to the brand that they're actually representing and some of the write-ups and so on and so forth like that.
Yeah, there's definitely opportunities for branding, like Ryan's saying, like with our blockchain day at the Capitol, where we actually bring some of our select members up to meet with politicians and do photo ops and actually talk about some very, very cool things, as Ryan can attest. There's all kinds of other conferences throughout Florida. Like right now, we're working with another protocol. There's a very large tech conference here in Tampa Bay. If you guys are familiar with the Tampa Bay area that we're getting them plugged in with, we obviously have a lot of conferences in the Palm Beach and Miami area as well that we want to push and that we can get connected with. So the sky's kind of the limit on branding and what we can do, as well as social media and publishing on our newsletter as well. I think one of the key factors, if I understand the proposal correctly, is also you guys would be seeking a board member seat through Ryan. And I think that's probably the biggest deal, right? Because now you actually have a say in some of our direction. And that's probably the biggest benefit of this specific tier of membership, which I think for us is a pretty big deal. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Actually, just maybe one just quick operational question. How would the invoicing work, Ryan? Who would the FBBA invoice exactly?
I wouldn't know. That'd be a Sam question, honestly. Sorry, Eli.
So I don't know if this would be similar to other protocols where the FBBA has a Coinbase account or a specific MetaMask account that like our board manages. And so if there's like a specific token you guys use, it would go to one of those accounts, and then our treasurer takes care of all of that reporting. Like we screenshot the transaction data if we ever need it, and then we still report everything with the IRS and whoever our like state people are. I don't know, because I don't think we're gonna send you guys like a Stripe invoice, right? That's not how I understand it. But if that is the case, that we can do something like that very easily. So that's we can honestly do whatever you guys need us to do, I think.
All right. And I think that would be the last question. Then we can, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Ryan, for presenting. And the proposal is still open on the forum. So if there are any more questions, feel free to add them there before it is put to a vote.
I think there's just one good one in the chat from Jay. What are the other tiers and their pricing? Are there other tiers, Sam, that we could look at? Oh, he might have gone. Okay, we can ask that on the forum.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Did okay, Sam did leave. Sorry about that. I didn't realize he did.
No problem.
My wife's like trying to run off the cam. So yes, I think there are different tiers. Kate, I couldn't tell you the different prices, but on the website you see like there's enterprise and then it's like corporate, something individual. But yes, there are tiers, so I will definitely get you an answer for sure.
Cool.
And thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. And what I will say is I think that it's a very good proposal you've made, and it's actually pushing us, when I say us, I mean the Treasury Advisory Group, to maybe to look at this holistically. Like if we have a budget of 26,000 CFG, what are we spending it on? And which, out of all the thousands of industry associations, which ones might get us more return for our spend across the 4 areas that we've agreed as a DAO that are our priority, which is to grow adoption, to increase utility, to develop the protocol, and then awareness, community, education, the last one. So we might need to do a bit of work on our side to help the DAO members assess this proposal. So that's all I'll say to sum up. Thank you.
No, thank you. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kate. All right. Then we can also cross this one off the list. And we have actually, speaking of Treasury Advisory Group, they have a Treasury proposal up to renew the funding for the next 6 months. And this is CP 140. So is anyone from the Treasury Advisory Group up for talking about this one?
Andrew, are you here? Or is it? No. It's me and Ivan. I think Andrew's on the plane. Okay, I will pitch it. I did not prepare to do this, so I'll just run with it. So the Treasury Advisory Group, who I hope most of you are very familiar with, given that we've talked a lot in the governance calls for the last kind of 3 months, we have just put up a CP, it's called 140, to seek funding for the next 6 months. Basically, we've produced a lot of deliverables, detailed Treasury overviews, which you can navigate to via the forum, which looks at the inflows, outflows, financial performance. So those are a really good resource for everyone. We've passed a governance improvement, which increased accountability measures for anyone proposing to take money from the Treasury. We have started assessing proposals as they come in. Obviously, we analyze every proposal, we write an opinion on it, we talk to people in the DAO, we try to help the decision-making process. I think that this has brought about, the outcome of this has brought about a bit more coherence as a DAO, increased activity, and an easy and straightforward way for people to get overview of where the Treasury is at. So this proposal is to continue this, but kind of expand it. And keep doing the work on refining spending priorities. Like we just saw a proposal, a great proposal about, hey, let's spend this chunk of money on this thing. But I think we could really do with a bit more intelligence as a DAO about like our overall spending. Which areas do we want to fund a bit more? Like if we want to focus on adoption, then what should we fund? And that might need a bit more input from the Centrifuge biz dev and marketing teams, but not too much, because we don't want them to be just advising us the whole time. We want to do ourselves some more educational sessions. So we want to host a few calls ourselves and some workshops to better foster an understanding of Treasury activities. Even do some kind of community calls for helping people think about proposals and writing proposals, potentially helping co-host a hackathon, and a whole bunch of other things that you can check out in the proposal. And the key thing, I think the crucial thing for you to understand is we want to initiate the pilot grant program to help us be better at budgeting and actually identifying opportunities and spending. So this will be targeted micro grants to start testing, refining. We're not going big, basically. We want to start small. So the proposal is going to last for the next 6 months. There's a slight increase in the funding requested given the token price, and it covers the two members, Andrew and Cesar, who are not already compensated. And yeah, any questions? Anything you'd like to see from the tag that you haven't seen already that we could think about including in this proposal? Or any feedback for us? Good or bad?
Yeah. Hi, Kate. I think the tag team has been doing a wonderful job in trying to analyze all the proposals and to formalize. I think we have discussed it in the very beginning that we need to avoid the draining of treasury, at least on the things or the discussions that I had. You are very much subjective and also looking at what's the value that is being brought to the centrifuge when somebody puts up a proposal and all. So yeah, it's just appreciation for all the team and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Kate, I'd probably like to just second that actually. Don't you guys, under a period of like lots of change that's happened at the firm, you guys have continued to raise awareness and continue the work you're doing, but not only that, try and think of new ways to go about your work and engage the community and engage the team at Centrifuge as well. So thank you very much, and I think it's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you for that, both of you. It's very cool.
All right. Like people are very happy with tag. That is good to hear. So we are actually very okay with time right now. So we've already covered the first 3 topics on the agenda, the first 3 proposals, and they're all 3. I don't know if it was mentioned, but I'll just sum it up very quickly. CP141, the Centrifuge V3 proposal, is going to be put to an off-chain vote at some point, an open square snapshot. And CP139 and CP140, the FBBA membership and the tech renewal proposal, will both be on-chain proposals, on-chain votes to receive the funding from the Treasury. All right. Then there is the one last proposal on the agenda that was posted a couple of days ago. That's CP143 to change the fees for the Anemoy LTF pool. Martin, if you're here, would you?
I'll jump in. Mohannes, cool. Hey, it's Anil.
All right.
Yeah, just to really discuss CP143 and what we're looking to achieve here. So what we're hoping for is to reduce the protocol fees to 0 and increase management fees on the LTF fund, the Anemoy LTF fund only, to 15 basis points. So I think it's going to be a relatively quick one here. So I guess to give some context and that will help understand why. So when we built the fund in December 2023, it made lots of sense when Anemoy was building the fund itself to charge, and then the protocol fee to charge as well. But as we've seen through this period of time, like the partnership we've had with Janus, in order to bring them on board, a huge traditional finance manager that they are, they still need to get rewarded and still need to get paid. And so for us to be able to, like, out of the 7.5 basis points that we were trying to make, that wouldn't be enough to support the requirements of a big institution like Janus Henderson. And so the suggestion here is that we will reduce protocol fees to 0, increase it to 15 basis points, which will give us the flexibility to pay Janus Henderson the required fees that they need to make this partnership work for them. And we've already seen that they've done all of the work and they've shown the commitment their side to make it work as well. And we've got some good commitments of TVL over the next couple of quarters. And so it makes lots of sense to make sure that they're as happy as they can be. And I think a second point to that is we want to be flexible and competitive to other asset managers who see this as well. So making sure that we're not always set in stone and that we can work in a lateral way will be very beneficial as well. And I think a second key point that we're seeing in the market is that there is flexibility in fees, and the reality of asset management is that there are often rebates included in that, and so in order to have that space to give rebates where required for for an investor to a very large size, and that we can reduce our rates for specific investments of that nature, we can offer rebates, and so we wouldn't be able to necessarily do that out of the protocol, and so it makes the most sense to be able to do it all out of the single 15 basis points level. And so they're the two key rationale. That's the two key points why we think that this makes sense. And so happy to take this to questions if there are any. And just to add, this is only for the Anemoy Liquid Treasury Fund.
Is this what competitors do in there? Charge zero protocol fees and increase basis points? Or
we were in a unique position in so much that when we first set this fund up, we were trying to make sure that it was equally aligned between Centrifuge and Anemoy. So others would not necessarily have that problem at this point. They would just have the asset management fees and then be able to reduce that. But if you look at traditional finance, taking out fees to support bigger investors makes absolutely lots of sense. And like paying an investment manager or a sub-advisor as a third party for their services it wouldn't happen without it. And so it's interesting because T-bills are such a skinny asset class. There's not a lot of meat on the bone anyway to kind of reward everybody. And so we have to look at this more holistically at Centrifuge and, how do we want to win and how do we want to energize other asset managers to come to us as well. So I wouldn't necessarily see this as nobody builds a treasury fund to get rewarded or paid handsomely. It's about market share. It's about the state of play of where we are in the kind of the cycle of the collateral use case of tokenization. And so I think it makes lots of sense in this instance to do this. Would we do this in every asset? Perhaps not, but we'd probably think about the way we kind of structure the fee base in a different way from the outset anyway. And so I wouldn't imagine that this will be a conversation that we have with the group, periodically. It will just really just be for this fund.
okay, that makes sense. Thanks for clarifying about the different shape of the T-bill asset class. And I think it's good to keep in mind that we can add fees back. Like this is the point of governance, is that not everything is set in stone forever, but we can work on a case-by-case basis. So thanks, Anil.
No worries.
Are there any other questions to Anil?
Yeah, I have one. So it's a bit generic question, right? So when we are any startup, right? So if you're developing a product, one thing we want to do is while developing the features and all, we want to see the features are being used as they're being developed. So for V3, I see extensions to the contracts and all supporting different types of products. So some of the easy products could be bringing in public equities. There are a few protocols that bring in public equities on chain, right? So later on, which could be coupled with some DeFi structured products and all, which can add value, right? Right now, the adoption is not so much, but still they can add value in future. Other types of products are real estate products. Treasury is the biggest, which you're already doing. And then private credit is the other one. So what type of incentivization do you feel is needed from Centrifuge side to make sure there is at least one fund, could be small, but at least there is one fund which for each category?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I guess I'd turn that back and say, why would we need an asset or a fund in each category if we can't sell it? The real question that we're building towards now is assets that can be sold or investable assets that people care to invest in. And so I think the business that we want to be a part of is listening to what customers want, where do they want to invest, and then building to that use case. Because very often in technology, as you know, you can always build to what you want or what you feel that the customer wants, and then you can't ship and you can't sell and you can't raise TVL, and then you're in a problem. So I think what we'd like to do going forward is like listen to what the investment community wants to buy. And what we've seen is, you know, nobody entered this market to build T-bills. And so we're doing that because it's a great use case for tokenization. And then we're already seeing customers talk to us about what's next. So that might be further up the risk curve in terms of fixed income, or it might be ETFs, or it might be different asset classes. But I'm a little bit worried to think about the market in terms of let's build in every asset class, because then we can say we have every asset class, because we could just have zero in every asset class and have a product there. So I think what I'd rather have is like hundreds of $1 million in assets that make sense, and that we can grow and like grow our partnerships and grow our asset management community that way.
Thank you, Anil. We have one last question from Ivan, and then we are actually towards the end of this call. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I have one super quick question. So first of all, congratulations to Anemoy, what Anemoy is doing right now. It is a top 10 issuers, tokenized issuer of T-bill. So with actual increasing of management fee, I would like to ask you, what should be the T-bill of Anemoy in order to be self-sustainable?
For this fund?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're hoping to, it's quite flexible, to be honest with you. The reality is we're hoping to like split this fee with Janus, so to make sure that they're getting some and we're getting some. But the reality is there are hurdle rates between our off-chain counterparts that we need to make sure are covered before we get covered. So it's in terms of break-even point, it's a moving target right now, because the work we've had to do is we've had the fund that we built in December, but we're kind of we're converting that to Janus Henderson. So we're using a lot of their third-party vendors and their suppliers as well. For example, potentially like the custodian or execution partners, etc. So that's moving. That's a moving goal post right now. But the reality is we would like to take 5 basis points out of fees to make sure that we're kind of covering ourselves.
In terms of T-bill, this will be like 1 billion, should be 2 billion, 3 billion?
Yes, I would say 500 million is a good target for us in the next 2 quarters. I think $1 billion is very achievable towards the end of the year. But like I say, it's almost T-bills is almost a lost leader in a way in this space, because it gives an access product to many people. As we start thinking about the CLO market, the corporate debt market, the other the ETF fixed income market, there's going to be lots more edge in those products, and this is about showcasing our skill set and our ability to build lasting relationships with traditional finance to come on chain. So I don't look at the T-bill space as a space that we're all going to monetize, but I look at it as a window to show people what we can build, to build other products on the back of it. But a target for $1 billion by the end of the year is very realistic.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Anil, very much for presenting and answering, and thanks for all asking questions. We are just on time, so thank you everyone for coming to this call. And our next call will be next month, and we are back to normal schedule. We had this one week earlier than scheduled. So thank you everyone for coming, and see you in the next one.
Thanks, Rohan. Thanks, everyone.